Hi guys, thank you so much for tuning in to Carol's Daily Sauce. We're back today with our, sorry y'all, I'm reaching for my book, 30 Days to Taming the Tongue, 30 Days to Taming Your Tongue, My Tongue, to Taming Our Tongues. We are on a 30-day fast of taming our tongues and taming those things that are nice and sweet and loving and kind and sweet as a honeycomb. So let me go ahead and put on my glasses. Thank you guys for tuning in. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Please don't forget to click on the bell to be reminded of each and every video I upload. And don't forget to share. Make sure that you share it out because this 30-day fast is really, really amazing. I've noticed a lot of changes within my own self as well as other people also saying. This is a book by Deborah Smith Paguz. You can probably get this book for like under $5. I will include all of the details in the description box. So we are discussing day 23. And day 23, speaking of the complaining tongue. Who wants to hear and deal with a complaining tongue? No one. Well, I can't see you guys because I can't see up close. I'm nearsighted. And it's only when I'm reading or looking at the computer too long or if the words are really, really small. So really quick, the scripture reference is Psalm 142 verses 1 and 2. And this is like an NIV. And it says, I cry aloud with the voice of the Lord. I make supplications with my voice. I pour out complaint before him, and I declare my trouble before him. Yeah, we're on day 23 of the complaining tongue. Once again, this is what the book looks like. It is a book by Deborah Smith Paguz, 30 Days to Taming Your Tongue, My Tongue, Our Tongue, because we are in this together. Okay, since I can read my writing, I write fairly big, so plus it'd be awful if I was unable to read my writing. I'm going to go ahead and take my glasses off. We're discussing the complaining tongue. Okay, let's go ahead and get into this. So this story starts out speaking of the 5 daughters of, and I hope to goodness that I pronounce this right. You know what? Hold on really, really quick. Let me. I'm assuming this is definitely, this story is, and you know what I'll do, you guys? I will, because I don't like to assume. Assumptions are not always good. I believe this is a story of the 5, it is the story of the 5 daughters of Zelophehad. The 5 daughters of Zelophehad. And I believe it's in Isaiah. I will put where you can locate the story just in case you want to read it. You guys, forgive me, I have a new hairdo. I've done a review on this hairdo. And a lot of times it has little stray hairs that get attached to my eyelashes and all that kind of good stuff. But I look amazing. I feel pretty. I feel very pretty. So that's all that matters. Okay, so day 23 is of the complaining tongue. And it's the 5 daughters of Zelophehad. And they had a problem. And the problem that they actually had is that their dad had passed away. He had died. And when he died in the wilderness, before the Israelites came into the promised land. So this is when they were traveling. And before the Israelites actually came into the promised land, these 5 daughters' dad passed away. Well, the father had no sons. And if you know anything about the scripture, if you know anything about the Bible, in those days, men were everything. Men were everything because they had to carry on the name. Well, this particular father had no sons. The daughters had no husbands. There were no children. Obviously, the daughters had no husbands, so there were no children born of these mothers. There were no other sons that were in their immediate family or anything. So the daughters, the 5 daughters, were left completely out of the inheritance. They were left completely out of their father's riches. But you know what they did? They decided, we are not going to complain. We are instead going to go, and we are going to call a congressional meeting. And in this congressional meeting, we're going to talk to all of the leaders, including Moses, and we're going to place a petition before them for our father's inheritance. So what they did is they went before the leaders. They went before the leaders and Moses, and they presented their petition wanting their father's inheritance. Because if you really think about it, it's just like you or I. If the days were like they were before, for instance, my family, we had 3 girls in the beginning, and then came this little big-headed little boy that we love so much, by the way. He really thinks he's our father, but we really, really love him. He's a great guy. But in those days, it had to be a man, because the man had to carry on the name. And the man carries on the name even so now. But, I mean, really think of it. After all, it wasn't their fault that their father only had girls. It really wasn't. It wasn't their fault that their father only had girls. So they wanted to fight. They wanted to fight for their right to the inheritance. It wasn't their fault also that they weren't boys. So Moses took the case to God. And as a result of Moses fighting on their behalf, taking all of the information that the girls had brought to he and the leaders, God granted them their request. And the same way God can grant you your request. It may not be something for your inheritance. It may not even be something of this caliber, but God is able to grant your request. He's able to grant all of our requests. We just have to ask, believe, and then we shall receive. But that is if it be according to his good will. That's the thing that people don't really, the Bible does say, knock and the door shall be opened, ask and you shall receive. But it also says, according to the will of God. So God has to want that in his will. Quite naturally, if he feels that it's going to destroy you, if he feels that it's going to do something to you that you may not come back from, he may not bless you with it. He may in turn bless you with something else. So what would the outcome have been had the young ladies had all the 5 daughters went and said, I'm going to get my money, I'm going to get my inheritance. I know my daddy dead, but I'm going to get it because it's due us. It's due us. We sisters, and because we're sisters, we're going to go and get what's ours. They wouldn't have gotten anywhere. They definitely would not have gotten anywhere. That's why in this day and age, most of us women would have been murdered. We would have been murdered for sure, because we don't know how to hush. We don't know how to hush. We don't know how to handle things. We don't know how to allow our husbands to make the decisions for our household. And I'm not saying make all of the decisions for your household, because I believe that you are your spouse's helpmeet. I'm my spouse's helpmeet as well. So we do make decisions together, but there are some decisions that your husband can, should, and will make on his own. This particular situation is kind of weird, because what if they had went and said, yeah, we're going in and we're going to take what's ours? And because there's a lot of women, I mean, look at, what's that movie called? With Queen Latifah and Jada Pinkett, and they went and they robbed the banks. I mean, they had to go take in personality, and you can't have that in everyday life, because I don't know what that was, it failed. If you do have that in your everyday life, you're not going to get far. If we live our life in the demanding state, we're not going to get very far. You're not going to get very far being a demanding person on your job. You're not going to get very far in your marriage being a demanding person, unless you're married to a man that automatically, naturally just lets you bicker and murmur because he don't want to hear you. He just wanted to be done and over with, so he just lets you do it. So Many times we fall into demanding and we think, why didn't that work out for me? It might be could have been the way that you presented it. Demanding never works. So a legitimate complaint can be resolved. It can be resolved if you direct the complaint to the appropriates. It just depends on how you choose to present your complaint. Oftentimes we waste time. We waste time trying to commiserate other people to join on board with us, to get our cheerleaders, to make them come on board. I need somebody to have my back because I know I'm right. When a lot of times we're not. The writer goes on to say that while she's in the store, a lot of times in the grocery store, and there are long lines, and she can listen to people murmuring and complaining about how long the lines are and how they need to hire more people. I hear this all the time in Walmart. One of the reasons why I go to self-check. I don't care about it having a camera right here. I don't care about it having a camera here. I don't care about it having a camera here. They got them cameras because people have sticky fingers. If you're not having a sticky finger, you scan your stuff and go on about your business, and then you don't have to complain about having to work in lines too long, wait in lines too long. Some of the things that we complain about and some of the things that we murmur about can be easy peasy, y'all. It could be easy peasy if we just decide to just do things the easier way and stop complaining. So the writer talks about how she oftentimes can be in a store and she never falls into the place of whining like other people, but very loudly she will say, they really need to open up another line. Hey, can you guys open up another line? Or something like that to get the manager's attention. And she said most of the time this works. But I got to give a disclaimer. I've actually been in a store where there were people talking about three's a crowd. Remember how years ago, I don't know what store that was, but when 3 or more people got in the line, and it may have only been here in California, but I know it did go on. When 3 or more people got in a grocery line, they would automatically open up a line. It didn't last for long, y'all. It didn't last for long at all because people was probably getting real crazy with it. But this particular person, when I was in the store with them, was hollering three's a crowd to the top of their lungs. And the security guard politely said, sir, I need you to go ahead and put your stuff over here on this belt right here. And the manager is asking me to escort you out of the store. So you can be disruptive if you want to, but you have to be willing to take the circumstances and the situations that come along with that. People often say to curse is wicked, but to murmur is also wicked. To murmur is wicked because it takes God's promises in vain. During this 30-day fast, we need to become aware of the non-essential matters. Things like traffic jams, rainy days, a boring TV show, a lazy coworker, somebody driving really slow in front of you. We need to take and breathe in and say, you know what, this is life. I'm going to just go ahead and deal with it and stop complaining. Nobody wants to be around a complainer all the time. We literally have some people, those that we know, and some of us even have those that we absolutely love, that are just crazy complainers. I do. But I've learned through this 30-day fast that complaining can be contagious. It's very contagious. One person starts complaining, the other person wants to jump on the bandwagon, but complaining is also hard to cure. Many, many times you can hear people complaining and other people want to latch on. The writer writes of how she was out to lunch with some friends and the women were complaining about what their husbands were doing. One was complaining about her husband not picking up after himself, leaving things on the floor. The other one complains about whether or not the husband wants what he wants for dinner and how he complains about what he wants for dinner. And my thought would be this: if you're going to complain about what you want for dinner, you might want to cook it. And that's not being disrespectful, but you have to be respectful to your wife. You have to be respectful to your husband. So long story short, the writer was like, okay, I don't want to not fit in. So because I don't want to not fit in, I've got to think of something that my husband does in which I can complain, because I don't want to be alienated. I don't want to be moved out. I don't want to not feel like I'm in on the in crowd. So what does she does? She says, you know, guys, my husband eats too much. He eats too much during the day. Then she went on to say, but he's at the perfect weight. If he's at the perfect weight, he's not overweight, and he wants to eat 500 times a day, he can do that. She said, but when he makes a mess, he cleans up after himself. Well, then you don't have no business to be complaining. They would just have to alienate me. Because you know what? If he cleans up after himself when he cooks, let them just complain. I don't like to be around complainers. If I recognize, I think I've said this one time before in one of my other videos, if I recognize in a live that a person is a chronic complainer or that they're really, really negative, I just excuse myself from it. If you're a complainer, resist the constant, ain't it awful feeling to always complain. No one person should complain about anything. Ain't nothing that bad all the time. And when you really, really look at it, the person with the problem is usually the complainer. For instance, I'm gonna tell you guys something. So we live in a city, a very busy city, very busy neighborhood. And in our neighborhood, we have Hispanics. And I don't know about you guys, but the Hispanics we live next to, they all have cars. They teenagers have cars. They elementary school kids have cars. The toddlers have cars. So you're always, I'm being really funny. I'm being sarcastic, but everybody has cars. So you're always, I can go on forever and ever looking for a parking space. Well, my wonderful mother-in-law, when we moved here, talked to her neighbors and asked her neighbors not to park in front of her driveway, which she had let them park in front of before because her car was immobile. But when we came, we needed somewhere to park. So they worked it out to where the neighbors would not park there. Well, my husband came home from being out on yesterday, and the neighbor was parked in his little parking space. I was in a great mood yesterday, just tired because I've been kind of like on a hiatus for 2 days. Look at my other video, the one with the review of the hair, and you'll find out why. But anyway, on a little hiatus, and on the little hiatus, I was just relaxing, just looking at TV, just looking at some YouTube videos and things like that. My husband comes in and he's looking all upset, and I'm like, what's wrong with you? Because I know when there's something wrong with you. I've been with you long enough to know when there's something wrong with you. First of all, you quiet, but you ain't quiet with your lips stuck out when it ain't nothing wrong with you. So long story short, the man had parked in a space. Now, my mother-in-law had explained to him that it's only temporary. He's going to move because he's a minister. He was going to have a Bible study last night anyway, so he wasn't going to be there that long. So I asked my husband, I said, so you mad about that? He's like, yeah. I said, well, where did you have to park? I said, did you have to park around the corner? He said, no, I've got to park in front of the neighbor's house. You know what I said? Well, what are you complaining about? You still got to park in front of the house, but you still complaining. Some people are just chronic complainers, and they don't know how to not complain. When you think of the constant ain't it awful party that you have going into your complaining state, and say you're not going to do this, others will be glad that you did. They'll be very, very glad that you did. People don't care to hear the dreaded, over, out of control complaining about minimal things that can be changed or temporary things. People don't like to hear complainers. Look, y'all, I'm not a complainer. and I don't like to hear complainers. Some people who are chronic complainers, such as my husband, need to seek wise counsel from a valued source. I'm not saying they need to seek a psychiatrist. I'm not saying that they need to seek a psychotherapist, but they need to seek wise counsel, because no one should complain and be unhappy and down all the time. No one. We're living. We're living. We woke up. God allowed us to see another day. We can breathe without having tubes up our nose for oxygen. We can move and we have synovial fluid. Look at that synovial fluid in that wrist, moving. You know, God is so good. He supplies us with all of our needs, everything that we need, everything that we desire. Most of the things that we desire, most of the things that we don't even deserve, God gives them to us. Stop complaining about the little things. Seek wise counsel so that you can change. However, if you don't desire to use the information that the wise counsel gives you, don't bother, because guess what? They'll get tired of your complaining too. When you feel a complaint coming on, if you are a chronic complainer or just an anytime complainer, I mean, I think we all complain sometimes. I think we all complain, you know. I had some food and my food was cooked all hard. I was complaining so much. I complained, and not everybody's food. Mine was the only one that was hard. So my husband was like, well, do you want me to take it back? I was like, no, I don't want you to take it back, because then you have to waste gas. But he ended up sharing some of his with me, which was very nice, and I was okay. So we all complain, but if you're a chronic complainer, that is when the problem comes in. If you're a constant chronic complainer, replace the complaint with a statement of gratitude. Replace the complaint with a scripture that brings life unto you. But don't be a chronic complainer. No one in the world wants to deal with a chronic complainer. And guess what? When you use those words of gratification and of scriptures, people will want to be around you because they'll see the calmness in you and the kindness in you. Today's affirmation is I'm looking at the wrong one. Because God works all things together for my good, according to his purpose for my life, I will not complain. And that's scriptural. That's in Romans chapter 8 and 28. God works all things for your good, according to his purpose. Trust me, his purpose is not that you would complain. Don't be a complainer. No one wants to hear you complain. Shh. It doesn't mean you're weak. It doesn't mean that you're soft. It just means that you choose not to complain. No one wants to hear a complainer. All right, guys, so we're going to go over day 22 of our 30-day fast, and we are going to speak of the cursing tongue. The cursing tongue. Do you know somebody that uses 4-letter words in their combo? Don't let them try to trick you and tell you it's something that's said in the Bible, because it's the nature in which they use it. That's the difference. Profanity is used for various reasons. Many times people lack adequate vocabulary to express themselves, so they complain. Other times they feel if they curse you, it'll have a greater impact. Are you challenged in this area? If you're challenged in this area of being a cursing tongue, you need to work on your communication style. You need to work on a communication style that is clear and that is direct and without hostility, because cursing is none other than hostility. People have to understand that explicits are unnecessary, and many times people resort to profanity to express their extreme frustration at or in a situation. You don't have to use profanity to do that. We can do better. When you develop this ungodly pattern of expressing your displeasure, you just need to refrain from responding. Don't respond at all. Just shh. You don't know what to say, don't say anything at all. If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. That's what my grandmother told me, that's what my mother told me, and that's what I live by. That's one of the golden rules. Thank you so much for tuning into Carol's Daily Sauce. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to click on the bell to be reminded of each and every video that I upload. Thank you so much for tuning in. God bless you and have a great evening. Mwah. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.